Hello viewers, this is a bit more complicated example of functions. Remember that functions are really only expressions of a relationship between two variables, and we have now seen in the previous videos that it is written as f of x, but that really stands for y, so they're telling you that that is equal to 2x minus 1. Okay. And in this case, we've got a second function, which is g of x, which is x squared plus 1. Now they say you must solve twice f of x plus g of x, which is equal to 0. So really, people, you have twice the f of x plus the g of x, and that is equal to 0. They're telling you that you must answer correctly to 2 decimal places. So again, people, the first step is substitution. So we're going to take our 2, and instead of f of x, we will write 2x minus 1. So we substitute f of x plus, now we're going to substitute g of x with x squared plus 1, and that equals 0, right? Then, if you look at this, this is pure algebra. Firstly, we must remove the brackets. So 2 times 2x is 4x, and 2 times negative 1 is negative 2, plus x squared plus 1 equals 0. Let's simplify or calculate, and I'm going to immediately write it into the quadratic trinomial format because I recognize that already. So that then becomes x squared plus 4x, right? And negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1, which equals 0. All right, now we've got a quadratic trinomial, and we by now know that we will have to solve that either by factorization or by completing the square, or we can use the quadratic formula. And because they're telling me that I must give my answer correct to 2 places, decimal places, I basically know that I must use the quadratic formula. All right, now let's just revise the quadratic formula. It's negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. So that is what we call the quadratic formula. And once again, people, it's a formula which you just simply have to know. All right, to revise, if we look at a quadratic trinomial, remember our general format is ax squared plus or minus bx plus or minus c. So now we can actually substitute into the formula the b, which is the 4, the a, which really is 1, and the c, which is a negative 1. So we will start with a negative, which is, this is equal to 0. Now, x, sorry, equal to x. So now we will actually substitute the b with 4, but remember there is a negative. Then we have plus or minus because it is a square root. Okay, instead of b, we will write 4, then squared, minus 4, replace the value for a, which is 1, and substitute the value for c, which is negative 1, right, over 2, and substitute the value for a, which once again is 1. Okay, if you now calculate your square root, which I always suggest is that you do that first, then we get negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 20 over 2. Okay, and then you must calculate the two possible values for x. Okay, the one where we have negative 4 plus the square root of 20 over 2, and if you put that into your calculator, it will give you a value of 0.24. Or the other possibility is where we use this minus. Okay, so you have negative 4 minus the square root of 20 divided by 2, and if you calculate that, then it gives you a negative 4.24 as a value. So really, people, what have we done here? We started by substituting f of x and g of x into the equation that they have given us. Okay, that was the step 1. Then step 2, we expanded the bracket or multiplied out the bracket. Then we simplified and we rearranged because we found that this will become a quadratic trinomial, right? Then we know how to solve it. We've got equaling 0, meaning we use the quadratic formula. Into that, we substituted the value of a and b and c. Then we basically calculated. Okay, and having calculated, remember there are 2 possible answers. The one is plus, the other one is minus. Okay, and therefore we get 2 possible values for x. Right, this is a bit more complicated example of functions, but it remains the same principle. You will just have to simply substitute into the right places.